Hey there, magic makers. It's Monday, so let's do what we do here in the Magic Words Collective, and that's to talk about a specific magic word that has resonance or wants to have resonance for us right now. And for me, right now, that is the word priestess. And so often when we do these magic words on Mondays, we use the same format that we use in the 7 Magic Words Challenge, right? We know if you've done any of these challenges before, it's based on a word that creates, a word that inspires, a word that frees. But priestess, a word that priestesses, that sort of stretches our English usage, which is really quite a wonderful thing. So I want us to go there because, of course, I realize that priestess hasn't been part of 7 Magic Words for the last 2.5 years because it just doesn't work. It's a noun. It's not a verb. Or is it? Because I have been thinking more and more about this identity, this role, this sense of self, this sense of what it means to be a priestess. And I think it's a word that we obviously get to bring our own power and resonance to that word. There are some set beliefs in whether it requires a wardrobe such that you look a lot like Stevie Nicks, or whether it requires you to be part of a coven, or whether we're thinking about, the ancient priestesses of Delphi and we're thinking about, Greek oracles. There's a lot of different stories that come up with this word. And there's a lot of creativity because we don't have priestesses in the modern Western culture in the way that we have priests. Certainly everybody has some vision of that word, right? I've got a man in a black shirt and a little white collar who's standing at the front of the room. Priestess is very different than that. We are invited to and inspired to bring our own stories to that word and to imagine whether or not perhaps we could apply it to ourselves, because there are fewer gatekeepers around the word priestess than there are around the word priest. And that doesn't necessarily make it easy to embrace. I know that I, for one, have been playing with this idea of, I know I can claim myself to be writing coach and story healer. I can be word witch. And there's that idea of being the priestess of sovereignty. That's a phrase I've played with for many years now, but I don't use it very often. And in some ways, it feels like I'm waiting to live into that word completely, to live into that identity, to have some sort of set definition that says, as priestess, this is how I move through my everyday. This is how I serve in the world. And I will admit that I don't have a set definition for that. But of course, doing things like holding space for magic words and holding space for that cauldron, for where all of us can create and explore and release and find something new. In many ways, that is the work of a priestess, and that's how I see my role and my calling. So much I will admit of my work right now is to say every day and in every way, I am becoming priestess in a way that works for me, my own sovereign journey, my own soul's calling and way through this particular lifetime. It's how it works for me as a mother, as a partner, as a friend, as a community member, as someone who is a creative who puts ideas out into the world. Every day and in every way, I am becoming priestess because it's my goal and vision to bring more magic into the world, more transformation, right? And the thing about the priestess that is tricky, and I'm calling here on, this is the High Priestess Tarot card from the Light Seers Tarot, which is my current favorite for readings for myself. And the High Priestess is, of course, deeply powerful, but not in the way that her counterpart, the Magician, is. The High Priestess is that sense of the feminine principle, of deep receptivity, of deep inner vision, of being in communication and communing with the moon, with the unseen forces. There's a hell of a lot of power in that. But it may look like she's just sitting there. It may look like she's just staring up to the skies. It may look like it's just a woman there alone with a journal, a woman listening to shamanic drum beats in her AirPods on some sort of great expedition that no one else can see, but that just might be changing everything. That's another thing that it means to priestess right now. To trust yourself to do the quiet, unseen work of being receptive. Because there's a lot of noise out there, and there's a lot of people struggling to be heard, to push their voices out there, to be the most right, to be the most awoken and the most powerful and the most ready to take on the system. Yes, yes, please, more, thank you. And I'll admit that trying to push myself into the world in that way, when my life is built as it is right now, as a mother home with children, trying to figure out how to educate them, how to tend to my own creative fires and do my own healing, I haven't been able to be that person. That's not the kind of priestess I'm being called to be right now. What kind of priestess are you being called to be right now? This conversation is not necessarily just for women and people who identify as women. It could be for any of us. What if all of us had a priestess within us? Because all of us have the masculine, the feminine, the ability to be active, and the ability to be receptive. We all have it. Every day and in every way, I am becoming priestess. Unhook that from all of your other preconceived notions about what you can and cannot be. And allow it to be what it is today, what it wants to be this week. Our magic word is priestess. How do you make that come alive for yourself? How does that shift your everyday perspective, shift your life more than just a little bit, so you can be the magic maker and the creative that you're here to be? It does not necessarily have to be an enormous undertaking. It can be the act of sitting quietly, eyes closed, tuning into the currents, the elements, the forces unseen around us, within your own body, within the tides of the sky. What is that comet that's been shooting across the night sky I've been trying to tell you? Tune into those things this week and allow them to be real, because they are. Every day and in every way, I am becoming priestess. The magic maker in me sees the magic maker in you. Leave us a note below and tell us how priestess is part of your life and your world and your work right now. I'd love to hear it from you. Blessings.